And there are a couple of devices that do this where instead of seeing actual images of ourselves, there would be animated um, images of us, avatars, if you will, puppets um, that look kind of like us but aren't us, that are generated by a computer. But for right now, I can just look at my friend Ben, who is hundreds of miles away, and say, Ben Lawrence,
Paul Goody!
with almost no delay whatsoever in
Just
our.
wait, it'll happen.
Oh, yeah. But,
Hundreds of miles
so
away,
it
thousands of
is
miles
remarkable.
away, sir.
Thousands. You heard it here first, but it's true.
Well, 1,000 plus. Um, in fact, I was working out the itinerary of my upcoming road trip, part of which means I'm coming out to see you, and I have dates. So put it in your calendar. I'll tell you later what they are, but
Okay.
put them in your
And
calendar.
I'll try to let you know also
Where will you be
where
living
I
at the
might
time?
be. Yeah, exactly.
So here's the clever
Yeah, go
bit.
ahead.
Here I worked it out, so it doesn't matter where you are, as long as I know where you're going to be the day I drive there.
Ah, sounds good. Okay, that should be all right. So, for those of you who have been paying attention, I am uh, planning on moving to Chicago sometime within this year. Um, Ben, I don't know how much we've been talking about it, but I did actually go to Chicago this weekend to look at places.
You did mention that you and the family were going to do that.
So, um, we saw two places. I've been using a website that lists homes that are for sale, and to look at them and figure out exactly, okay, well, do I want to look at this place? Do I not want to look at this place, etc. And there was one house that our real estate agent was able to set up a viewing with us for, and I've learned something about these places, Ben.
These relatively inexpensive places in undesirable Chicago neighborhoods.
No, these places that show you images of the houses that you're going to look at.
That it's like a house dating profile and that the reality does not match the photography.
They have no control over what images are provided. This is something my real estate agent told us after we viewed the house that we looked at.
They meaning who?
The people that run the site,
The site, like a big real estate site?
like the real estate site where you're going to look at these images,
Okay.
right? So
We're not going to mention
the
which one, but
place, right, exactly. The place that and here's the fun part: you and I might be thinking of two completely different sites.
I have two in mind. It's probably one of
Yeah,
them.
probably one of them. But we'll never know which one. But this is the thing: don't hold it against the site.
Dan's Real
Uh,
Estate Site.tv.
yep, that's one of them. Uh, so we went in, and the one thing that was really different from the pictures and versus the reality is that the um, faucets existed in the photos.
And they wouldn't stop screaming.
They didn't. They weren't there in that house that we looked at. There's a big hole in one of the walls that wasn't pictured.
Yeah.
There is a drain a drainage pipe that isn't supposed to be a drainage pipe. It's supposed to be probably a pipe for exhaust from the oven, but there is no cap on it. And so whenever the rain happens, it just fell right into the
Yeah.
ceiling. So there's black mold on the ceiling, etc.,
So,
etc.,
I mean,
etc.
judging by your price point, every house you look at's gonna have some sort of issue like this, where like the previous tenant took the fixtures, or somebody broke in.
Somebody broke in and took the pictures. That's the idea. But we saw another one around the same price, same day, open house. Now, here are a couple of things. One, this place was in Berwyn, which is a little bit further out from Chicago.
Okay.
Berwyn and Cicero. Um, Still nice.
I'm looking up where Berwyn is.
Yeah. Um, but the thing is that there were 30 people at the open house, at least, all of whom were interested, right?
Yeah.
The house was a mess on the inside. Hoarder house, right?
It was still like
But
stuff was still in there.
oh man, everything was still in there.
even
My stuff,
even the old
your
guy who
stuff,
still lived there was in there.
yeah. So the basic thing is that the realtor promised that it would all be out, by closing. And
Closing
I don't know.
time.
I was like, oh, this, and because I had just seen the bad one. This one didn't have those problems, right? I was like, oh, and I jumped the gun a little bit too much, all the way up into like my finance guy started working on an offer letter, and then Jennifer's like, let's think about this. We're
On the hoarder house? For the hoarder house?
yeah, on the hoarder house,
Okay.
yeah, and she's like, you've just seen that there are so many people after this house. It is not falling apart. All of this. That doesn't mean it's the best house for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that this is the one that we need to
And
have. And keep in mind, Ben, I looked at 2 houses.
all of 2. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm wondering what the percentage of those 30 people are people who aren't going to actually live there but are looking for property to flip, to rehab the house and sell.
So most of the people that I saw there, I think were there to live there. There were families. There were like
Okay.
groups of people together who were planning on living in the place. So I didn't feel so bad about not taking it. But
I mean, some other family gets to buy the whole hoarder house.
Exactly. And this is the thing that Jennifer said, is that some of these families might have somebody in there who actually, like they would just clean it themselves. They wouldn't be spending the money, because this is the thing, is Jennifer's like, we'll have to send somebody else through. And she said, this is the other thing, is that there might be discovery of problems that we don't know about, because there's literally stuff covering every single surface.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen enough home rehabilitation shows to know that there's always something wrong once you take the drywall out.
So the main thing that we're looking for is, what are we going to, do, where are we going to go, etc.
And how much effort do you want to into rehabbing a place to be habitable for you and family?
Exactly. So the nice thing is we got to go to the different neighborhoods and stuff like that and look at them and get a feel. So when we go in, now this is the interesting thing. Do you remember when we're going in August, Ben?
Back to Chicago?
I don't. Look, do you remember?
No.
Okay. So we talked about it off the podcast. We haven't talked about it on the podcast. And I think it'll be okay to talk about it because it's interesting enough that we should talk about it. Way in advance, I put in my vacation request for work.
Yeah.
Saying I would like to go to Chicago. Look at this. I figured we don't want it to be, we want to kind of move in October is the idea. So the best time for us to look probably be August 17th. We might as well keep some other days there. So we're going to look the 17th to the 20th. Over the weekend, while we were in Chicago, we found out about something else that's happening in Chicago over that weekend. the Democratic National Convention. But the neighborhoods that we're looking for our houses in aren't going to get a lot of people in them
Yeah,
for the
I
Democratic
imagine
National
that's going to be
Convention.
contained to downtown.
Yeah, which is fine because we're not going downtown.
But there's still going to
So,
be like traffic or whatever if you head in that direction.
yeah, exactly. So, something we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and that was the other thing is that, it was while we were driving around in Chicago that we heard the news, Ben.
Yeah.
What might that news be? And does it count as a GudeLaurance scoop?
I don't think it counts as a GudeLaurance scoop. But you
Now,
probably
I will
didn't
say,
hear it here
what
first.
what have we been talking about in the past with regard to Joe Biden and the Democratic National Convention?
What had we been talking about?
Yeah, if you were to listen back to the last couple of episodes, we had mentioned about how it's really it was interesting that Joe Biden, was like fourth or something like that, and then the Democratic National Convention happened, and he
Oh,
became the first pick.
yeah.
Uh, and there was a conversation. I think if you search the audio, you will find it, where it was discussed between you and I that the same could happen. It's
Yeah.
I remember exactly the metaphor. If you meet someone when you're cheating on your spouse with them, and you get married, you gotta watch out.
Yeah. We called shenanigans that Joe Biden was picked over all the other candidates back in the run up to the 2020 election. And so.
Somebody might get picked over him
But
in this election.
turns out those shenanigans don't need to happen for Joe Biden, at least, because even after weeks of saying he was not dropping out of the race, well, guess what? I mean, here's the sequence of events. It came slowly, but he did say, I'm staying in the race unless there's a medical reason I need to drop out. And then less than a week later, he got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple 3 days after the news came out that he got COVID, I believe it was like a Sunday morning. News came out that Joe Biden is stepping aside and endorsing for president his current VP Kamala Harris,
Who was one of the people that folks were upset got pushed aside for him to become president at one point.
Indeed.
I was telling folks about this. Younger folks don't have this experience. I believe that you do have this experience. You and I are not that far. We've talked about this before. What is it? 3 years difference? What is the? Yeah. So, yeah, you'll know this. Folks who are listening, who were not around when there were basically three main television stations, won't understand the pain and hell that it was for a young child to be watching television and finding out that there was a presidential address that was coming on. Because
or anything.
when there was a presidential address coming on, there was not going to be anything else on any of the three stations that you got a chance to watch.
Yeah.
All of them would be showing it.
Even if you were lucky enough to have a PBS station, it would probably show it. And if you had a station that just showed syndicated TV shows, chances are they would probably show it.
Yeah. I believe Channel 11, which is the channel in St. Louis that showed syndicated stuff, did not show it a couple of times. And I think their ratings did really well during that time. I could be wrong.
We had the same, we had, oddly enough, Channel 11 here in the Northwest, which, showed Cheers and Night Court reruns.
Yeah.
A lot of MASH and Barney Miller, too.
Yeah, exactly. Probably my favorite station, I would say, maybe. But here's the thing. All this to say, I watched all of President Biden's address
Which, I
that
mean,
he gave.
compared to the length of Trump's speech at the RNC, was refreshingly. Biden's speech was refreshingly brief. It was, I believe,
Yes,
13 minutes in total, compared
it
to
may.
Trump talking for about 90 minutes. Well, rambling for about 90 minutes at the RNC.
Yeah, which I did not watch.
I didn't watch either.
But it made me like him. I was like, oh, that's nice. He did a good job of like. There's the thing that Walter White did in Breaking Bad, like the end of the Breaking Bad, where he said, that he did this for himself because of his ego and all that kind of stuff.
I did it because I
And
liked it.
in his speech, Joe Biden said that he that he didn't want to stay in for selfish reasons, something to that effect.
Yeah.
That it was the our democracy was more important than his ego, something like that, which I thought was really great. Um, Also made a reference to his stuttering, which I thought was also nice. A
Yeah.
little bit of humility and also to call out the people who, if they were going to make fun of the fact that he couldn't say
Right.
different things. Never been a big fan of Joe Biden in general, but I liked that speech.
Well, I mean, it was when you the thing about Biden, if you take away the fact that he was like the elder statesman of the Democrats who were running in 2020.
Uh-huh.
If you just compare him as a person to what he was up against, I mean, he does come off as like the more compassionate, selfless, politician who is doing the job for country, not for self.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of people have issues with Joe Biden, especially from like things he said when he was a senator, for instance. Things he may have done or said as vice president. But like when you compare him as a person to Trump, like he's just a more decent person.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is I think it would be difficult for some people. I'm going to be very vague here. To to conceive of the idea that he would step down. Like the concept that we heard, from certain camps was, oh, he's probably dead, and they wrote this and they forged his name, or he's sick and they forged his name, or he's old and sick and they've held him down and made him do this or whatever.
Puppet Joe Biden has been a popular refrain amongst the
Yeah,
MAGA Republicans.
and yet, you know, he was. If and here's the thing: if you want to get as cynical as possible,
Let's do
you
it.
know, he was allowed to look good uh, while he was stepping down. And it is also really, really interesting. All the people who assume that he abdicated the presidency, which he has not.
He's still the president. He was doing two jobs. He was being the president and he was running for president. And he decided to
Yeah.
just focus on the most important job, which was being president.
Yes.
I,
And
I,
hey,
I'm having a lot of joy watching the MAGA meltdown over Biden stepping aside because they built their whole platform on running against Joe Biden. And, there's probably still like pending ad buys out there that are now worthless.
yeah, it is really interesting. It is kind of a wrestling thing, in a little bit. American politics. If you look at professional wrestling, it's part of it. Um, Joe Biden. It's a switcheroo. Like like he's out, but then he gets tagged in, and
Yeah.
now, oh, here's Kamala Harris. wait, whose music is that? That sort of thing, and
It's
it'll be interesting to see
the
how this pans out.
I mean, the Republican Party has always been the party of law and order, right? And so they're running a convicted felon against, presuming Kamala gets the nomination, a prosecuting attorney. And so, like,
Yeah,
who writes this stuff? Can the Republicans be the party of law and order now with that dynamic? It's really interesting
yeah,
to watch.
and so yeah, I if I were the Republicans now, like I already gave them what they should have done, they didn't do it. If I were the Republicans now, I would go full Duke boys and yeah, just be chaos and be like, you ain't gonna get me,
Right.
and
Yeah.
lean full on into being criminals.
I mean,
And
they kind of are. It's
yeah,
like there's a it's getting like ridiculous levels of like satire at this point because like the rumor came out like many sources have come out that Trump used the N-word on The Apprentice, right? And somebody was like, he's probably going to say it in reference to Kamala at some point during the campaign. And my thought was, is that really going to change his base at all? He'll be cheered if he says that at a rally.
I feel as though, and just to go back really quick to the Dukes of Hazzard, just um,
Can't get that old Duke boys off your brain.
they were chaotic good.
Yeah.
That was the idea. They were fighting the police and all that. This is the problem: is that
The police, which were clowns, by the way, so it
right?
wasn't a hard fight.
So the idea would be, yeah, that the police were the Washington Generals to the Harlem Globetrotters that were the Duke Boys. That's
Exactly.
probably the first time that this has been suggested. But the problem is that the crimes that moonshine and is not, it's not a victimless crime, but it's a fun thing. Smoking the Bandit,
You're
or
not hurting anybody. You're just helping them hurt themselves.
right, exactly. I'm making for those of you who aren't or just listening to the podcast, I'm making a face. Um, but the main thing is that human trafficking and sexual assault and all the other stuff, that's not really a fun
No.
crime that you could. So that's a problem for that tactic.
Yeah.
It's not a chaotic good situation. So, there are people who are pushing the whole the fact that she was a prosecutor as a reason not to vote for her.
Yeah.
You know, well, you said you didn't want a police state, but now you're going to put this person in charge, etc. I don't mind it. I don't have a problem with it. I do think that it opens some of the people who are further left than me into manipulation by bad actors who, are going to do stuff like might as well just not vote then or whatever, which is, sneaky tricks
You
and all that.
I'm never gonna assume that I'm going to know what is going to persuade somebody to vote or to not vote.
Yeah,
Like,
but
like
the
it doesn't equal out. The people who were going to abstain from voting because they did not want to vote for either one of them, but now they'll vote for Kamala. Does that equal out the people who were going to vote for Biden but now won't vote for Kamala?
Yeah, and I really honestly do think that the people who were going to vote for Biden but won't vote for Kamala are few.
Yeah.
I really do.
And like, are they not going to vote at all, or are they going to vote for Trump, or maybe third party?
Man, switching your vote from Biden to Trump is so weird. But I mean, it's possible. One of the other things, I again, this is a search the audio situation. I don't know if you remember me even mentioning this.
Probably not.
But when the assassination attempt
Yeah.
happened, I had mentioned to Jennifer, oh hey, it turns out Secret Service says that maybe it wasn't a bullet that hit him, but shrapnel from the teleprompter that was near him. And then she was like, "Oh, I can't find that anywhere." And then I couldn't find it anywhere. And then just today, news article saying that somebody from the FBI said that maybe it was shrapnel rather than
I saw that.
a bullet.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which, crazy, but maybe true.
I mean, like,
Does it matter? The only thing, and this is what I mean by this. To me, right? Again, my bona fides, OCD, autism, um, all that. Yeah, it matters. It has to be. You have to know exactly what happened. You have to report it correctly so that people have the right information, etc. That's my baseline.
but the effect of it, like, would it does it change public opinion if it was a piece of shrapnel from the teleprompter versus an almost direct shot? Because one would have been lethal.
Yeah. So here's what I would say. I feel as though, and I could be totally wrong, but the people that it will matter to, if I almost get hit by a car, but a car doesn't hit me, I say that guy almost hit me,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't matter, one way or the other. The act of almost hitting me is the thing I'm upset about, right? So in that case, assassination attempt doesn't matter if it's a bullet or a piece of shrapnel, whatever. The fact that an attempt was made is the
Well,
important thing.
and also, here's the thing, like, so one person did die at the rally, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've not heard this said anywhere. I don't necessarily believe this myself. I'm just saying it. What if Trump wasn't the target, but an innocent
That
bystander?
that this person tried to. I mean, here's the thing. We've been trained by Law and Order and all sorts of stuff. That's the big twist. Is
I'm
that
not. Yeah, I'm not saying that one guy who died was the target. I'm just saying anybody in the crowd could have been an intended target to elicit a response, and Trump just happened to get hit by a piece of shrapnel from a
that's an
teleprompter.
interesting. So, and this comes to the second point. The people that it would matter to are the people who, when they find out that it was just shrapnel. The second question is, did he know that it was just shrapnel and lie about it?
Right.
Or did he just assume that he got shot and went with it? I feel like, I mean, personally, I feel like the second one is more plausible. Like, somebody shoots at you, you've got blood on your ear, you're
Yeah.
like, oh no, I've been shot. Now, the thing is that the pageantry of it, other people wearing the same
Yeah. Definitely
thing on
not
their
a
ear and all
cult.
that. If he had not been shot, if it was shrapnel, do they need to believe that he was shot in order for that mythos to stay like poignant?
That's hard to say because they are so deep in that ideology, right? They have made being a fan of Trump their whole identity. And so, like, how do you resolve your sense of self with this new information?
Do you remember Bob Roberts, the film?
I don't believe I've ever seen it.
Okay. So
And when I
Bob
say that,
Roberts,
I'm saying I have never seen that film.
Bob Roberts starred Tim Robbins
Yeah.
as a politician, a younger conservative politician who sort of swept the the country with his songs, and he played a guitar and sang, and it was very conservative, and it was just like what his campaign was like. And one of the issues, or one of the things that happened, uh, spoilers for Bob Roberts, by the way, a very old movie. Um, so Juan Carlo, uh, Giancarlo, uh,
Giancarlo Esposito?
played Gus Fring,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Giancarlo
he
Esposito.
plays a reporter who gets framed for shooting Bob Roberts. And in the end, it turns out that maybe Bob Roberts wasn't actually shot at all,
Ah.
and it was just a thing that got cooked up to increase his popularity and stuff. And it's shot like a mockumentary, right?
Yeah.
And in the end, he's supposed to be paralyzed or whatever, and he's in a wheelchair. And then the documentary team shoots him tapping his foot along with the music, and that's kind of the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. Anyway, I don't know why I brought that up then in reference to this conversation. Just
Well, it's
interesting.
I was thinking about the cult of 45 and how everybody at the not every, how there were some people at the convention wearing a pad on their ear,
Yeah,
like what Trump was wearing. And it reminded me of this movie. I think it's based on a Stephen King book. I'm trying to look it up. I can't remember the name of it. But in it, Martin Sheen is running for president.
it's The Believers, Ben. That's the name of the film.
Martin Sheen is running for president, and he's a front runner, and he ends up like there's an assassination attempt, or at least a person with a gun at one of his rallies.
Oh wait, it's not. No, it's not The Believers. It's The Dead Zone.
The Dead Zone.
Yep.
And there is so when he hears gunfire going off, he grabs a child. I think it may have even been a baby, and shields himself
Yep.
with this baby slash child. I don't remember the exact age of the person. And photos of that were taken. His political
Yep.
career was ruined. I think the point of it might have even been like he would have caused World War III, and like Christopher Walken had to like prevent him from. So Christopher Walken, I think, was the shoot. Maybe I think that's how it goes. Anyway, I had this. I was wondering if Trump had had access to a child, and when gunshots rang out, if he held a baby up in front of him at the Republican National Convention, would people have been offering their children up to Trump to hold, mimicking that photo op?
Wow, that's a.
Not even at the convention, at any random rally that Trump was at.
I think. Here's what I would say. I would think that people online. There would be some people online who would say, that they would offer their child up.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that would happen. There's a
We live in a weird time.
there's a Paul F. Tompkins. We reference Paul F. Tompkins every once in a while on this. I'm a fan of his comedy. Ben, I believe you're a fan of his comedy as well.
Paul Tompkins yet to prove himself to be a terrible human being, so it's okay to talk about him and to fanboy all over him.
I mean, Paul F. Tompkins talks about times that he's not proud of in his life. I think that's the mark of a good person.
It shows learning and growth.
He talked about how new fathers sometimes say, "I would take a bullet for my kid."
Yeah.
And then he has that thing of like, why are all these people trying to shoot your baby? And then he has President Baby.
President Baby, yep.
It's very wonderful. But the other thing I was going to say, I do have a Ben Gunn Guess the News,
Hit it.
and also it's a public service thing as well. So what strange rumor about Donald Trump's VP pick has been making the rounds online?
I don't know about strange rumors. I've been hearing a lot about this guy, and they're all like plausible. But is the rumor is that there's inbreeding in his family?
That is not the rumor I'm thinking of.
Okay. um, I'm gonna need to narrow this down. I know very little about this dude. JD Vance is who we're talking about.
All right. So I wanna preface this before I go any further.
Is it that he was like at one point in his life he was questioning his sexuality, and so now he's like very anti-gay?
No. Okay. So the rumor that will be referenced further on when we start talking about this has been pretty much debunked.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna try my best to make sure that I'm giving that its credence. So I'll start with this. We'll do what we do sometimes, where we give little hints as we go along, and then drive. The rumor is that recently something was removed from his memoir.
He didn't also shoot a dog, did he?
No. And also, again, I think it was on Snopes said that there's no truth to this. Now, if you were to believe the rumor, and he was coming over to your house, what precautions might you take to ensure that an incident like the one that was supposedly removed from the book, but again, according to Snopes, was not, does not happen to you?
Is he accused of stealing things?
No. Ben, this is great. Does
he poop?
Wonderful.
Does he poop in your living room?
Oh, you know what, Ben? He doesn't. But you're closer than you might think to what the issue is. So if he were to be a person who would poop in your living room, what objects within the living room might he poop on?
Poop on or in? Like, I'm assuming like a flower pot? A flower pot?
I did say on.
A coffee table?
In fact,
your dog?
All right. I'm going to attack this from another angle.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Chappelle Show?
I have to, not very much. I've seen some episodes.
Oh, no. Okay. What celebrity's favorite sibling is sometimes on the Chappelle Show?
What celebrity's
talking about stories
favorite
of he and his famous
sibling?
Famous sibling. What celebrities?
Is it a?
He became famous in his own right because of his appearances on the Chappelle Show.
Is it Bill Clinton's brother?
No. I'll even give you the name of the guy. Charlie Murphy.
Charlie Murphy. Eddie Murphy's brother?
Eddie Murphy's brother.
Okay.
And specifically, sometimes they would discuss their run-ins with famous people. He would discuss his run-ins with famous people. One of them was, this is great, Ben, and I'm sorry to do this so long-ranging, far-ranging thing. One of them was Prince. They had a recreation of when Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy, and Prince all played basketball against each other.
Okay.
And okay, so that's not this one. Okay, we're gonna go.
I'm assuming this is connected in some way to what was allegedly removed from.
There's another strange angle going. Okay. Who is the director of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is
Guy
Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie.
What famous person who was a footballer at one point in time was in a couple of
Yeah,
Guy
that
Ritchie's
guy.
movies?
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name at the moment, but I know who you're talking about.
Okay,
Do I need his name?
do you remember who he played in one of the movies in the X-Men franchise?
Oh God, I don't. I've only seen the first X-Men. I don't remember him being in it.
Okay, it was the Juggernaut.
Okay.
And he had a catchphrase that came from the internet. Do you remember what the catchphrase that he famously said?
Remember, I never knew it to begin with.
Okay. It's okay, so it used the B word,
I'm
which
rich.
I don't know. Okay, so all right, so it was I'm the Juggernaut and then that's what he said.
Yeah.
But okay, so
I'm rich. B
in
word. Is that it? Is that it?
well that's what the tagline at the end of you know that is. But at the end of the Chappelle show had that in it.
Yeah.
But there's another catchphrase from the show that's very similar. That's I'm blank and then B word again. It's so great. We're keeping it clean for the kids.
And also
Um,
classy, talking about pooping in
so
a bucket.
so he's talking about so Charlie Murphy is in talking about a story that has a celebrity. He's a musician, and he says, "I'm blank," and that celebrity, Ben, I'm going to tell you it now, is Rick James.
Yeah.
So he says, "I'm Rick James," but there's another phrase from one of the Rick James stories on the Chappelle Show, where Rick James starts kicking an object that belonged to Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy. It might have just been Eddie Murphy, but uh, just destroying this object from someone's living room. And he's saying, F your blank.
Stereo, record player,
No,
television,
no, nope.
bookcase,
What's sometimes thought of as the centerpiece of a living room?
a coffee table, a
Oh, it is a piece
rug,
of furniture, but it's not a coffee table.
an ottoman, a rocking chair, a
Oh,
recliner,
Ben, you're so close, but you're not going large enough.
a centerpiece of it, like a fireplace, but a fireplace is not a piece of furniture.
Right.
Um,
A very
a
common piece of furniture that
table
one would
of some
find
sort,
in a living room.
a couch.
Bigger. Ah, yes, a couch. And so Rick James in the Chappelle Show
I can't wait to figure out how
would
this
say
relates to what JD Vance is
would
alleged to have
say
done.
blank your couch.
F your couch.
Uh-huh. And that's why you have to take precautions if this rumor were true about JD Vance, because if you didn't, there was a chance that he might.
F your couch.
Yes. The rumor is that there was a portion of his
So glad we
his-
got there eventually.
there's a portion of his autobiography where he describes
Copulating
putting
with a
inside out
Davenport.
latex glove into a couch, and it's all based on this tweet that somebody said that was a total fabrication, something that they thought was funny, and then it just took off, and now people are making jokes all over the place. It is similar to the Scream that we've talked about before, at one point in time, a Democratic candidate, uh,
Howard Dean.
for now, went yeah or yeah, and he
Yeah!
totally lost his
It was
place. He
sort
was
of
no
the.
longer able to.
Yeah. That was sort of the
Who was that
downfall.
guy?
That was Howard Dean.
Howard Dean. And who was he running with? Or was he just a campaign guy?
I don't think he'd picked a VP yet.
Yeah. But yeah, then they were like, no, thank you. So this is sort of like that, in that no, okay. So JD Vance has a lot of stuff that people don't like about him, but this thing about the couch never happened, and yet it's going to be
I,
at least partially what he's remembered for.
You don't even need to bring the couch into it. He's already kind of put his foot in his mouth in many different, in myriad ways, even without the couch thing. Like, a lot of people are saying this is a big misstep by the Trump campaign to pick Vance because Vance is essentially a mini Trump. And they were assuming that they were running against Joe Biden and didn't need to, like, diversify the ticket to, like, maybe win over some swing states. But,
Yeah,
JD Vance is like he said at one point on a news program that how can you trust Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC to govern effectively because they're all crazy cat ladies, right? They're all childless, and how can you care for the future of America if you don't have a direct stake into it, i.e., children? And so a lot of people are piling
wait,
on with it, piling on him because of that statement.
doesn't doesn't Buttigieg
Yeah,
have children?
Buttigieg and his husband have adopted, but that
I
doesn't
was like,
count in
yeah.
in the minds of
Uh,
Republicans. That does not count.
well, as an
Kamala has
adoptee, of
stepchildren.
course.
That does not count either.
That's crazy. Um, but yeah, so this is the point. This is the thing. I think I've mentioned this before about millennials on the difference between millennials and even Gen Xers when it comes to this kind of stuff. Someone posts something like, um, making fun of a fascist for anything other than their policies makes you no worse than them. And then the millennial will write, actually, no, it rules. And how can you argue? I mean, this is the thing: is that and when I say they, I mean the conservative party are used to. We're used to working with boomers, hippies, and I
Yeah.
guess Gen Xers in a way also of just, oh yeah, that's right, I have to play by my own rules, you know, and that's one of the I mean, again, going after Joe Biden, uh, he has that age range of, oh yeah, I have a set of rules I need to play by. Um, I'm gonna be better than you. I'm gonna keep my decorum or whatever, and I'm going to
I,
um, not go down to your tactics. Whereas if they ever have to deal with someone who is going to be as nasty as they are, it's going to be bad.
well, I mean, Michelle Obama got a lot of flack for like the stance that she took, which is admirable. Where she says, "When they go low, we go high." Right? You don't stoop down to their level.
Yeah,
But I mean, the pushback I see from that is you have to go low because that's the way they fight, and you have to meet them, and that's how you win.
right. So
Because
I
they don't
mean,
care
and
about they
this
don't care
is
about hypocrisy. They don't care about ethics or anything like that.
and this is the way I would look at it. Um, there is a difference between now. I conduct myself differently. I try to. and I'm still will. You know, whenever somebody talks to me, I try not to think this person is pure evil. There's nothing that I can say that will reach them. I
Yeah.
try not to do that. I try to find the common ground that I can have with the person. Because normally I can. Normally I can find something that we agree on. And some people would say, well, yeah, just because you found this thing you agree on, this person is 90% rotten. Why would you ever want to have that? It's just the way that I am. Not good. I'm not a good person. I'm a conflict avoidant person. There's a difference,
Yeah.
right? But the idea that okay, so Kamala Harris can take someone down, can understand things about them, and can refute their arguments and things like that. And the difference between her doing that in a conversation, right, and her legislating things that help the people that don't want her help, right,
Right.
is different, right? And this is the thing that people don't understand is that um, I'm I'm going to help you even if you don't want my help, but I am also not going to allow you to treat me like garbage.
Yeah.
That's the difference of like again, someone like me, milk toast, however you want to say it. I will allow people to treat me like garbage because I don't want to get into a fight.
And that, sir, is why you will not have my vote.
Yeah. Oh man, can you imagine, Ben, the problems that would happen if I tried to vote, if I tried to
If you
run
tried
for
to
any
vote.
sort of office?
Yeah.
If I tried, yeah, even then.
Oh, it came out. You heard it here, folks. Um, I don't like watching presidential debates, but if there is one between Trump and Harris, I will tune in. I want to
Yeah.
see I want to see that dynamic at play. I don't think it's
Um,
going to happen, but if it does, I'll watch.
there is someone in Congress. Her last name is Crockett.
Yeah, yeah,
She's a
yeah.
lawyer, and that's something that I've been enjoying
She's
watching her
she's good at confronting and taking down people.
like and I will say this, basically standing up for principles that I agree with.
Yeah.
You know, like okay, so we've heard a lot of you know crap about this. This is what has actually happened. Can we get to the actual truth of the thing? One thing that she had was about the different branches of government that she did that was really great. Just like trolling a little bit, talking to people like they're still in grade school, but like we have how many branches of government? Three.
Yeah.
That's right. And which one is this? The legislative branch.
And this is Jasmine Crockett, and she's not afraid to go after bullies either. She very
Yeah, that's
famously
what
went after MTG, not Magic the Gathering, which is what I see every time I see those initials.
Interesting. That you see Magic the Gathering every time that you. Did you play that, Ben?
No, but
Is
it
this
was
something
very
I
it was
don't know
very
about?
it was very prevalent among my friend group. So I'm familiar with
Ah,
the
okay.
game. I just never played it myself.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Let's see. Is there anything that we missed? Anything? We've got about 5 more minutes. Anything that we haven't talked about?
It's been a big news cycle.
Oh, I will say this. I walked into a Pokeball place a couple of months ago,
Yeah,
and
on purpose.
yeah, yeah. Have you had a Pokeball?
Yeah, I've had it.
Pokeballs are pretty good. I get the ones with tofu in them
They're not my favorite,
because
honestly.
I don't know raw. I mean, I'll eat sushi every once in a while, but raw food, I'm just
Yeah.
So I have a Pokeball. I walked in, and the guy said, "For a second, I thought you were Mel Gibson," and I didn't get what he meant. Now that my beard has grown out again,
Yeah, I can see it.
the pattern of whiteness is, speaking of the
The
pattern of
pattern of
whiteness,
whiteness, the Mel Gibson story.
Mel Gibson.
I,
Hey.
you know, I don't see it, but I can see where somebody, if they don't know you, especially in the beard, right?
Yeah, it's the beard, really,
Yeah.
is the main thing.
I mean, my cousin has the same. My cousin has the same exact. I was almost called it flavoring. The same exact colorization, like where it's the goatee part is white and the rest is
Yeah.
still like natural hair color.
So I don't know. It's getting whiter on the. You can see it
Yeah.
a little bit getting whiter here. So I'm feeling like it's gonna be okay to grow out again for a little bit. I like having a beard. It's
I
just
don't. I'm probably gonna shave on Saturday because I'm going down to see my family. But and my camera's too washed out here. You can't see it. But I do. It is. I do have very salt and peppery facial hair.
mm,
Yeah, it's not uniform like yours. It is kind of like spread out, like especially in this
yeah.
area. But it's happening.
You'd be surprised if you were to grow it all the way out where like what kind of patterns it has and stuff like that.
I do have like a.
Stripes.
I have a cowlick right there. That's it's circles, so
Mm.
when it gets longer, it's kind of weird. It's like a crop circle in there.
I had a space right here. You can still see you see where it's white in part of it.
Yeah.
Where it the only way I can describe it is the hair grows faster. So I had or it's more advanced. So I had hairs growing out of
Has
it,
a degree.
right? Like I was shaving, but the hairs would grow out of it, and then the hairs that grew out of it turned reddish, and then my beard when it came in fully was reddish,
Yeah.
and then it started to turn white. So eventually, I think my whole beard is going to be white at some point in time, and I do fear that a little bit, being the guy with the white beard and the regular hair color. It's always kind of odd, but
Own it, man. I mean,
yeah.
let go natural. Natural's the way to go.
Now that I have my belly
Own that
fully
too.
in, I'm wearing suspenders all the time
I
because Ben, I don't know if you know about this. Um, at first I was like, why do they have two different things? Why do they have suspenders and belts? Wearing a belt when you have sort of a gut is less comfortable. It doesn't really because part of the belt thing is that it goes around your hips, right?
yeah.
If you've got enough weight on you, it doesn't really help it. It slips down all the time. Whereas suspenders are just like
I have
it
one.
feels good.
I have one suit when I wear suspenders, and I swear to God, every time I wear it, and I don't wear it all that often, I think when I put it on, I'm like, I gotta adjust these suspenders are too tight because it keeps giving me a wedgie with these pants, and
Oh yeah.
they're like cotton pants, right? It's like a suit from like the 40s, and every time I wear it, I'm like, well, gotta adjust these lower, and then I never do because I take the suit off and I'm done with it for a couple years, but yeah.
Interesting.
But I like suspenders. I like the look.
Hands that give you a wedgie, you say? I'm gonna have to look into this, Senator. Please. He said, no. I like where this is. I don't do that character that, but we. For those of you at home, there is a thing that Ben and I don't think we ever did it really on stage, but there is a bit where I would say perverted things, and then Ben would refer to me as Senator, and that's how we got away with it.
Good
But
times.
yeah, good times. Speaking of good times,
Hey!
I've had one today.
Yay!
I've had one good times today.
One good times 10.
James Evans, the father on Good Times, uh, was once in a movie playing a police officer where there was a bit where the guy said, "Did you know you look just like the dad on Good Times?" Which I thought was great, and I can't remember what the movie was anymore. But maybe we'll find out later. And Ben, until then, I'm going to ask you to please keep it wrong.
Keep it wrong, and I'll also ask you to how's it happening because I don't think we said that at
How's
the
it
beginning of the
happening?
show, but how's it happening and keep it
But
wrong.
how is it indeed?
And I will, and maybe when we talk next week, there won't be a big political shift on the landscape.
Boy, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Until then, room tone.